Hello, thank you for watching this video. The Cyber Mentors and Consultants Limited. In this video, we shall be looking at ISO 27001 certification process. Remember that ISO 27001 is a framework that provides requirement for information security management system, and companies and organizations um, that want to adopt the standard are required to get certification to this standard. And there's a process of managing this certification is what this video is all about. And before you continue, please, we encourage you to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then as well, please share to others. So the certification project can be managed. Most organizations use, sometimes they use consultant, and sometimes they use internal stakeholders, the cybersecurity analyst or the cybersecurity information security manager or the GRC manager. We manage the entire project. And sometimes in conjunction with consultant or without consultants at all. So the process of managing this certification starts with top management approval of the project. The project needs to be approved by the top management of the organization. That is to show the approval by top management shows how serious and how committed they are in getting this project actualized. And then the commitment here also involves the top management being able to demonstrate clarity between just getting certified, or they want to get certified for the purpose of compliance. Some companies do get certified for different reasons, maybe because their clients demands certification, or maybe the regulators demand for it. But in most cases, companies want to get ISO certification because they really want to implement a robust information security management system, ISMS, in order to protect their data and data of other parties that they deal with. So every communication regarding this project have to be documented. All the emails, all the meetings that were held to initiate this project, to approve this project, they all have to be documented. In most cases, you as the cybersecurity subject matter expert will be the one to also make a presentation to your management to communicate the benefit of ISMS to them, communicate the benefit of getting ISO certification to management, and then for management to get the approval to sign off and get approval for this project. And then so management also need to demonstrate commitment by agreeing to support this project with resources. Resources could be financial, it could be human resources regarding competencies and others. And then management will also ensure that this project is communicated across board. Everyone in the organization needs to be aware of what is going on, because somehow everyone is concerned and should be involved, either directly or indirectly. And then roles and responsibility regarding this project need to be defined. Who is responsible, who does what in the whole process. And then having gotten management approval, which is sometimes can be a document signed off by management, which you need to document, because these are some of the things the external auditors or certification auditor are going to request when they come for auditing. And then you need to the next thing you're going to do also is to make sure that you come up with your project team. You educate your project team, who are the people that are going to be actively involved, yourself and a couple of others within the team. And then you kind of agree on how you want to manage documentation for the project. And then you define roles and responsibilities using the RACI matrix within this project, who is responsible, who is accountable, who is to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. So responsibility, accountability, consultation, and who does need to be informed about the project need to be documented in the form of a racing matches. And then you conduct a meeting with your project team on how you want to go about the project deliverable, the project risk, deadline, grouping the project into different phases of what you want to achieve per time at what time, and then be able to, assign roles and responsibilities to everyone that is involved in the project. You can involve other heads of department in the project. For example, head of HR, head of finance, head of compliance. They are going to, you can involve them in part of the project, because definitely all parties are going to be part of this project, because when you are drafting your policy, you're not going to draft your policy in isolation. You're going to draft your policy in conjunction with different heads of department. So now, the next thing is to be able to identify who your interested parties are. Interested parties here, we're talking about people that will be affected, organizations or people that will be affected by this project. In other words, those people, external parties or internal parties that are relevant, that those people that are parties that will impose security requirements on the organization. They are interested parties. And some of these interested parties could be your employees, your customers, shareholders, the owners of the company, government agencies, vendors, that's your suppliers or your partners, and then also include regulators. These are interested parties. They are the people that are interested in security. They are interested in whether they're showing interest in the project or they are going to be affected by this project, and they are relevant to this project, because apart from identifying these interested parties, you need to also identify what does each party require. What are their information security requirements? That should be also be defined. So these things are going to be documented. For example, if I want to, if I can go to my compliance team and ask, okay, who are the regulators of this company? They will tell you, okay, the company is regulated by, let me say, for example, Financial Conduct Authority. They are the regulators. And then you need to ask them, find out from them, get information on what are the information security requirements of the Financial Conduct Authority. And then other interested parties could be like information, ICO, Information Commissioner's Office. You also need to document what are the cyber security requirement of the Information Commissioner's Office. So you document all this. So you're identifying each of these interested parties, and you are documenting, writing down what are their information security requirements, because these are the documents that you are going to show to the auditors. It's a process. Then other requirements can be like employees. What do they require? What do the customers require? Customers and employees, they want security for you to protect, to be able to protect their personal information, their records. Even customers want to be sure that you can secure their data, because your customers are going to commit their confidential information into for you to process them. So they need one of their requirements could be they need security of their information. Then what about the shareholders, for example, the owners of the business? They want returns. They want security of their investment. They want to see how the company they have invested so much in, they want to see that it's protected from attackers. The data information and their sensitive information are safe. So these are the requirements of the trusted parties, which you need to identify and also document what each of these interested parties require. And then the next thing you're going to do is to come up with a scope statement. You define the scope of the information security management system. What scope will this project cover? So the scope here could include key function of the business. What are their key functions? It could also cover, you can also say the locations, the assets and technology that is in scope for this project, the boundaries. You also take into consideration organizational context, which also involve take into consideration requirement of interested parties. And then so most times for big companies that have head office and have other divisions or partner across the globe, they might find it very difficult to, too cumbersome to get ISO certification for the entire company worldwide. So what they do is sometimes for the first instance, they want to limit the scope to just the key functions of the business. They want to limit the scope to just the head office operations. And then they can now expand to other divisions in the future. And then so in defining scope, you also consider interfaces and interdependencies. What does that mean? It refers to activities that are performed by the organization and those that are performed by external organization. That means particularly internal and external activities performed by the organization and those performed by external organization. For example, like outsourcing activities. For example, for like cloud service providers, identity providers, providers of your communication tools or storage facilities. They're going to have interface with information security management system. So those also will be in scope for this project. And then having defined your scope, the next thing you're going to do is to begin to write your information security policies. These policies ideally are derived from the standard. The standard recommend the policies that you should write. And also the policies can also be adapted to the organization objective, because the standard recommend policies, you also adapt the policies. How does this suit your objective? So if you, for example, one of the policies could be access control policies. How do you want to manage access? And then could be like a acceptable use policy, what is accepted from people, your customers or your third parties, how they should manage your information assets. And then when you draft these policies, the next thing is to make sure that the policies are approved and then communicated internally, not just internally, also communicated to interested parties. For example, your suppliers. The suppliers, the policies of the organization that relate to suppliers have to be communicated to them. So you communicate to everyone in the business. They should know that this is the policy you're going to be adopting going forward. And the policy also needs to be reviewed regularly, minimum annually. When you draft your policy, it needs to be reviewed maybe a yearly. For example, if your policy is published today, like 5th of May, and then it's expected that by 5th of May next year, minimum before then, the policy should be reviewed. And then the policy is documented is kept as a documented information. And then having drafted your policies, communicated your policies, trained everyone that need to implement these policies on how the policies should be implemented. The next thing is to come up with a risk assessment methodology. In other words, you have to this is a document, it's a methodology how you want to conduct risk assessment. Is it going to be qualitative or in the methodology? Some of the things that are stated there is to agree whether you are going to adopt qualitative or quantitative method of risk assessment. What scale are you going to use? Is this scale of 1 to 5? So what are the rules? How are you going to be identifying risk? How are you going to identify impact? How are you going to identify likelihood? So how do you want to identify risk acceptance criteria? And the process must be, consistent and repeatable, and then it also is also part of the documented information. Don't forget that documented information means that those compulsory information that you must document, that the external auditors are going to review for them to get you certified. We will see a list of the documented information at the end of this slide. So you define your risk assessment methodology. Having defined that, the next thing to now perform risk assessment. You perform what is called risk assessment. We have another video that deals exclusively with risk management. So for this purpose of this video, we're not going to go into detail on how this will be done. This video is just to give you a guide on the process for getting certification. And then so you perform your risk assessment, or by identifying your key assets, your vulnerabilities and threat. Then you perform what is called risk analysis by identifying what are your likelihood, what are the impact of the risk happening. You compare, when you do that, you compare it to your risk acceptance criteria. And then when you come up with your risk rating, you come up with your risk rating year, and then whatever you get as your risk rating, you compare it to your risk acceptance criteria. Then you prioritize risk for treatment. You treat your risk based on criticality of the risk. There are some risks are critical, some are not critical, and then you only treat your risk if it is above your risk acceptance criteria. And then this one is also kept as a documented information. And then having perform your risk assessment, the next thing you're going to do is to perform risk treatment. So performing risk treatment is like you have your risk already. You have all the risks that the company is facing. You need to treat them. Treating the risk is that the risks are above your risk tolerance limit. That means you have to treat them. And then what you do, you can have to select your risk treatment option. How do you want to treat the risk? You can decide to avoid, treat, or transfer, maybe to insurance company or whatever. So these are some of the risk treatment options. And then what you do in treating your risk is to deploying controls or safeguard. And for in ISO, these controls are in Annex A, Annex A of ISO 27001. And then having identified the controls that you're going to use to treat those risks, and then you need to get risk owners to sign off the residual risk and approve the risk treatment plan. So risk owners are those people that are responsible for managing the risk that have been identified. So they're going to sign off the risk, and work with them to ensure that the risks are treated. And then so the next thing you're going to do after you have done your risk treatment is to come up with what is called a statement of applicability. That is SOA, statement of applicability. Of applicability shows that SOA shows it's a statement that shows the control, applicable control that the organization want to comply with. So from Annex A of ISO 27001, you have a list of controls. The new ISO 2022 has 93 of them. The old ISO of 2013 has 114 of them. So these are the controls you want to apply, because not all the controls in Annex A may apply to you. For example, one of the controls can say, okay, you have a software development policy, and if you don't develop software, that control or policy might not apply to you, so it becomes not applicable. So you are in this document, it shows which controls are applicable to you, which ones are not applicable, and then within that document also you need to justify, state the reason why you are not complying with that control, and then also state the reason why you are complying with it. So you have to, justify, create a column showing justification why you are not complying with the control or why you are complying with the control. It might be that, okay, we are complying with the control because the law requires it, because regulators require it, or because there is one of our contractual requirement with our supplier. So that is the reason why you are complying or not complying with those controls. So that is your statement of applicability. It's a very robust document. And then the next thing you're going to do is to begin to write your risk treatment plan. Your risk treatment plan. How do you want to treat risk? What controls are you going to use? Who is responsible? Who is the control owner? What is the deadline that you're going to agree with the control owner for the risk to be treated? For example, if you identify a particular risk, if the risk is related to the HR department, it means that the head of HR is the control owner that is going to deal with that risk. You agree with deadline, okay, let us deal with this risk within 3 months. They'll be able to make sure that we have deployed the necessary controls. And then you also agree what are the resources we're going to use, financial, human resources. Does the risk require you spending money? If it requires buying new tools, or does it require you employing new people? So these are some of the resources talking about. And then the next thing is to be measure effectiveness of this control. And then this is done using the plan, do, check, act. In the plan, you are defining your controls. After defining your controls, as we have agreed, then the next thing is to begin to implement. That is the do phase. You need to implement controls. That's the do phase, which is the next one. You implement your controls. For example, if you have drafted your policies, the next thing now is that it's time for you to now begin to implement, action your policies, put them into practice. For example, if your policy says our password policy says we must have minimum of 8 characters. If before now you have been using 6 characters or 7 characters, it is time for you to start your change to 8 characters. So that means you have started implementing your policies. So in other words, as you're implementing the policies, you're also checking, ensuring that those policies have been implemented based on what has been documented. For example, if your policy says that when somebody leaves the company, you must remove his assets within 24 hours. That is the new policy. Yeah, and then you need to check. You need to be sure that somebody left on a particular date. You have to check subsequent date to see when was the access removed. So you're already implementing, and you are also checking that these policies have been implemented. And then you monitor result, and then act is to take corrective action. Meaning that when there is any deviation to the policy, you need to quickly point it out and then take corrective action to see that you record some improvement in that area. You make sure that such deviations or non-conformities are addressed before going forward. So now, implementing security controls. Now, I've mentioned some of the controls on the safeguard. Definitely, things are going to be done differently. There are going to be changes in behavior. People are going to be doing things differently. The HR people are going to be recruiting differently. The development team, depending on what they were doing before, they're going to be using the new policies, that you have drafted. So, things are going to change. If that is where you see that the culture is, information security culture is going to be incorporated into the business. So people begin to do things differently. And then you begin to maintain the record of implementation. Maintain this record. As you are implementing, then you are going to be maintaining this record, gathering evidences of implementation as you progress, and then the next thing the next thing is now you are going to conduct internal auditing. Internal auditing is very, very important. It's one of the key things that auditor, if you don't do that, you might not even get certified. So what are you auditing? You're going to audit the entire system, the entire process. Audit the system, the information security management system. You're going to audit against ISO standard. Auditing the controls, auditing the policy, auditing performances, what people are doing, how are they implementing these controls. So you're also auditing against the laws, requirement of the laws, the legal requirement of the land. For example, if you are in the UK, the UK Data Protection Act says, there's a way you have to apply manage information regarding the data subject. So you have to audit that, and this is being done. You have privacy policy, and then you have regulators. You're auditing against requirement of the regulators. If the regulator says that before, one of the things they want you to have is to make sure that you are doing training and awareness. And then you say, okay, are you conducting training and awareness? So these are some of the things that you must audit against. And then you also audit against contractual requirement. You have contract with your suppliers and your customers. Are we following the terms of the contract? Are we following the terms of the contract? So there must be clauses that are, information security clauses that are already are contained in the contractual document. Are we following it? And then you're also going to audit the system against companies' information security policies and objectives. So if company has policies that have already been drafted, or one of the things we're going to audit against is to ensure that these policies have been implemented. What is to do not document what you cannot practice, put into practice. And then the objective of the ISMS, are they being fulfilled? And then you also audit against planned method of activities. For example, you have a method of risk assessment. Is that the method that you are adopting? And then you have the risk treatment method that you have agreed. Is that what you are adopting? So you're going to audit against that. In auditing, you record your observation, you record your conformances or non-conformances. In other words, conformances are okay, you are conforming with everything. Non-conformances that you are not conforming with the requirements or your policies, you are not conforming with standard, you are not conforming with all these things. And then you record your non-conformances and then work with the people in charge involved to take corrective actions. You must take in initial time, you after the audit, you have your observation recorded, and the observation include either conformances or non-conformances, and then you now take corrective action. Any non-conformances need to be addressed. If things are not being done properly, it needs to be done properly now before you can now come up with a final audit report. And then in the process, there's what we call management review meeting. Management must meet, because the result or the minute of the meeting of the management review meeting is part of the things the auditor will require, external auditor. And then we have the content of the meeting or the agenda for the meeting will include the form of the following: internal and external issue relevant to the ISMS. In other words, the management need to review what are the internal issues, what are the external issues that are relevant to the ISMS. They also review the audit result. This internal audit we are going to conduct, management will review it. What are your findings? Apart from that, they will also conduct what is called measurement and monitoring result. Part of this process, including measuring your performance. How are your performances compared to what you planned? For example, if you plan that, okay, we want to ensure that our number of incidents is reduced. You kind of measure how many incidents do you have compared to what you plan. If you used to have so many incidents, I say, okay, we don't want to have more than 5 incidents. You measure against that 5. Do you have more than 5? If you already have more than 5 within a short period of time, then which means there are issues that need to be addressed. It means that there is opportunity for improvement. And then the monitoring result of your activities. The result, how is it going? How is it turning out? Is it turning out? Okay, so these are the things that management, the management includes key stakeholders, top level, management, the top level of executives, that are part of this management, departmental heads, cybersecurity heads. These are the key stakeholders in the business, within the business. And then you also, part of the things they review is to review your result of your risk assessment and your risk treatment. You have to review your risk result. When you conduct your risk assessment, you have a result of your risk assessment and your risk treatment. How is it turning out? Are the risk treatment, are they working as expected? The control that we have deployed to manage our risk, this need to review whether they are working as planned, and then are the controls working as expected? And then you need to also review corrective action and continuous improvement. So in this review meeting, you need to come up with what action can we take? How do we improve, from where we are to where we should get to? Another thing also that you need to also do is to ensure that there is annual training and awareness. You need to make sure you conduct training, cybersecurity training and awareness, because the training and awareness result is part of the documented information for cybersecurity. And then having done all this, and the last stage of this certification is to now obtain proposal from several certification bodies. Certification bodies are those people that will call all external bodies, external auditors, they call them certification bodies. They are the one that will come and audit the entire process. And meanwhile, you have all the documents, all the evidences that you have gathered in the whole of this process that we have discussed. You're going to save those documents in maybe in a particular location, whether on a SharePoint or Confluence page or OneDrive. So these are the documents you're going to make available to the auditors. They're going to come and audit the entire company, the entire process. And then the certification auditors, when they come and conduct their audit and they are satisfied, and that is when the company will get a certification. The company will be certified to ISOs. But ideally, when they come to for their audit, definitely they will observe non-conformances. Definitely, yeah. When they observe non-conformances, just as you did during the internal audit, they are going to also give you room, maybe a few months, to be able to correct those non-conformances. And then you will be having communication between you and them. So you are the cybersecurity professional within the company. You are the one that will manage the external audit process. So this is just a summary of how ISO 27001 certification is done. And then, like I promised earlier on, if you go, this is the compulsory documentation, compulsory document that you must have. As you are, for example, we talked about scope. This is scope of the ISMS. There must be a scope statement documented, which then information security policies. These are your information security policy we talked about, and you're going to draft your policy. These policies, the responsible auditors want to see. And this is how you usually it is documented through this means. This is within ISO 27001. You can refer to these clauses in the ISO or these controls in Annex A that points to what document need to be kept or to be drafted for you to comply. So, and this is how this document is achieved. This document is achieved through this means. So, how do you get your scope for the ISMS? Is by issuing a scope statement, and you can see it in clause 4.3. And then how do you get your information security policy? You can by drafting an information security policy. Your risk treatment and risk treatment process, your risk assessment and risk, it must be a document. So it's the same thing, methodology. Then statement of applicability is by having a statement of applicability drafted. These are separate documents. Then you have your risk treatment plan, your information security policy and objectives. The objective of the information security must be documented. Your risk treatment report, your inventory of assets, list of assets. So you must have an kind of asset register. Then you have what is called acceptable use of assets. It's like a policy document that you need to draft. Then you have incident response procedure. How do you manage incident? So you must have an incident management procedure in place. Statutory, regulatory, and contractual requirements. So I said it before, these are part of the interested party. You need to have list of who are your list of legal, regulatory, and contractual requirements. So in other words, what are the things, who are the people that you are responsible to legally? What are the legal framework? What are the regulatory framework? What are the contractual requirements that you need to satisfy? So you have security operating procedure for the IT department. How the IT department go about managing the security of the company. The definition of security roles and responsibility. You have something like agreement, like you have agreement, you have a non-disclosure agreement, specifying responsibility or in each security policy. So in other words, every policy you have, you must have NDAs agreement drafted for third parties to sign, because you must have non-disclosure agreement. So you have definition of security configurations, secure system. These are among others, these are the compulsory documents that you must have in place. This is just not all, but these are compulsory. There are other non-mandatory ones that look at. So that is just the summary of how you get ISO 27001 certification. Like I said earlier on, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel until see you again in our next video. God bless you and thank you. Remember, cyber mentors are into training and mentoring activities. You can contact us with the contact details from the beginning of this video. and also connect with us for more videos.